Guys, there's a story going around of a man who went missing in 2023 and has now been found in his home, dead and completely decomposed to the bone. And the worst part is, his wife and children were living in the same house and they knew exactly where he was the whole time. Imagine living with a dead body in your house for 2 years with your children. 56-year-old George Kalaba went missing in 2023 in Lusaka, Zambia. No one had heard from him. No one had seen him. The only people who would know where he was his wife and children. However, when people he owed money reached out, the wife would tell them that he had traveled or that he was sick or that he was not around. Even George's siblings could not get to him. And anytime they wanted to reach him, they would call his wife, 51-year-old Sylvia Kalaba, and she would tell them that George was not around, George isn't feeling fine, any excuse just to keep them from reaching George. Her husband. George and Sylvia have been married for a very long time. They are in their 50s. George is most likely in his late 50s to his early 60s, while Sylvia is 51 years old. They had 4 daughters. Their oldest daughter is 27 years old, so this is a grown woman. And their youngest is 15 years old. So even around the time of 2023, when he supposedly went off the radar, these kids, or should I say, these girls, were adults. The house they lived in belonged to them. And they also had tenants. It was neighbors who spotted that the last time they saw George was in July of 2023. And they didn't think too much of it because they saw the wife and children living their normal lives. Whenever anyone came to ask for George, Sylvia would give them an excuse. Sylvia would let them know that he wasn't around or he had traveled. She always came up with a story. The neighbors did not remember seeing any sign of concern or fear or any moment where they ever cried. Their children were also going to the home of George to play with George's kids and they didn't even notice or perceive anything. All the while, George is dead in a room on the bed in that house. It was not until George's older brother, Emanuel, picked up interest that people started paying attention. Emanuel knew something was wrong. How can he not be able to speak to his brother for 3 years? And anytime he wanted to, the wife would always give an excuse. One of George's friends also came to look for him and he got the same thing, the same response. And it was a friend that became concerned and decided to call Emanuel, George's older brother, to let him know that, see, something is off, something is odd. Your brother's wife is acting strange. I've been trying to get to my friend George for nearly 2 years now and nothing. The friend expressed his concern about George. He knew something wasn't right somewhere. It's 2 years too long. And instantly, Emanuel decided to come to George's house himself to look for his brother. And when he came, around the 14th of January, he was knocking at the door and Sylvia would not answer. The children would not answer. They would not let him in. And then he looked through the window and saw them praying on the bed. Something just wasn't making sense with the sight. Why is this woman and her daughters kneeling down praying on the bed while he is outside knocking at the door and they won't answer? Which means they knew he was there and they could hear him. So what were they doing? They were deliberately not letting him in because the door was locked from the inside. Then Emmanuel began speaking to the neighbors, asking them about his brother, if they had seen George and when was the last time they saw George. And that was when the neighbors recalled seeing George last in 2023, July. And that was when Emmanuel knew that something was definitely up. And he went to the police around 4 p.m. on the 14th of January, expressing to the police his concerns regarding his brother. And the police followed him back to George's house. And this time they had a warrant to search the house. Sylvia was made to open the door and the police began the search around the house looking for George. Lo and behold, there was a bedroom in the house that had been locked from the outside. And the police specially requested for the door to be opened. And when it was opened, right there on the bed was the skeletal remains of who they believe to be George Kalaba, the man who was last seen in July of 2023. The remains were positioned in a way as though he had been sleeping. Not covered, not in a casket, just on the bed. Pictures were taken. The remains were eventually moved to the hospital for autopsy and preservation. Sylvia and her daughters were instantly arrested. And right now, it is believed that they murdered him. because they are going to be charged in suspicion of murder. The police were able to determine that, given the scene of the house, George's body was kept in one room and was locked there, while Sylvia slept with her children in the other room. The neighbors were all surprised about this discovery because they would not have imagined, given the fact that Sylvia and her children went on like nothing happened. They celebrated Christmas, holidays, birthday parties. Kids came into their house to play, eat. Everything seemed normal with them. There were even rumors that Sylvia was trying to start a church. Even the children in the compound who went to George's house to play were asked if they ever perceived any foul smell, because how can a dead body be in a house for that long and no one would perceive a smell? I mean, the entire compound would be able to perceive it. However, the child, who was around 15 years old, says anytime he went to the house, it smelled normal, which indicates, or which suggests that Sylvia, the wife, may have gone out of her way to make sure that her decomposing husband does not give out any smell. And it will be interesting to know how she did it without raising eyebrows. It was also said that George's last child, the 15-year-old girl, whenever she was asked about her father, she would tell people that, oh, my dad is not feeling fine, he's sleeping. And this could be one thing that Sylvia may have told her all the while. And maybe that's the story she was told regarding her father sleeping in the room. It reminds me of one Netflix Korean zombie movie where the king was infected and they kept telling everybody that the king is recovering, the king is not feeling fine, he can't see anyone. It could have been what the little girl was told, that she repeated, not knowing that her father was lying dead all the while. And maybe once a while, the mother would go into the room to do one or two things, probably to keep the smell from coming out, and she would think it's the mom attending to the man. But that is the last born. They had 4 daughters, who 3 of were a lot older and more mature. So it would be nice to hear their perspective. It would be nice to know what they knew. The 15-year-old girl, I can understand that she only repeated what was told to her. What about the older ones? What about the 27-year-old one? There is no how they did not know their father was dead in that room. Now, what is not clear is how George died and who killed him or what killed him. An autopsy would be conducted. Right now, people think it was the wife who did it. And that is why she, along with her children, had been arrested. Some people are suggesting it's some kind of ritual, given that she also wanted to start a church around, after he went missing. Some people also think it's some sort of mental illness. But this is what I think, because we've seen this before. This is not the first time we're seeing somebody whose partner dies and they keep their body in the fridge or in the house and cater for it. Could it be mental illness? Most likely. But I don't think they killed the man. I think the man probably fell sick and they were relying on a miracle. They were praying and hoping that the man would resurrect one day. There have been multiple stories like this. Even one that is not very famous in Nigeria, of a famous singer who died and her husband had to keep her body for days in the house to pray with hopes that she would resurrect. That is a story that is out there but has not been told. So maybe one day we'll talk about it, because it involves a famous female singer. So you can probably Google it. She died. Her husband would not let go of the body for a while. He kept praying, hoping she would resurrect. And I think that could have been the situation with Sylvia and George and the children, given that they are religious. This is mostly religious people's kind of thing. I think she most likely thought if she prayed long and hard enough, the husband would resurrect. That could be why they probably left him there and kept him there. That is just my thoughts, and I might be wrong. I don't think she killed the man. I think if she killed the man, she would have probably tried to hide the body. This is something we've seen on multiple occasions. Do I think she's mentally deranged? Even if she is, she has 3 children who are adults. This is most likely the indoctrination of the belief that maybe their lifestyle, or if they keep praying, God will bring their father back. That is the only way I see it. However, I'm open to the possibility of it being that it's a murder, even though I don't think so. unless there's a reason why they would believe she killed him. Maybe there was a fight, or maybe there was an issue, there was an incident, and that could be why the adult daughters are keeping it a secret. Was their dad, George, physically abusive? Was it somebody that they did not like? Did they really hate the man? Was he sick and then they locked the door and neglected him so that he would be there and die? Because we also know of a story of a woman who locked her husband in the house, knowing her husband was sick, and then traveled and then came back to his decomposed remains. That story is also there. We know a story like that. Could this be one of those cases that George was just not their favorite person and they really tortured him and let him be there to die? Because I still would not understand why the 3 grown-up daughters would let this happen for 3 years, to continue the lie and be in on it with their mother. I can see why their mother would do it. She probably loves her husband that much. She's probably mentally deranged. She's in her 50s, so she's probably having some mental issues. But I would not, for the love of God, understand why 3 young adult women would want to keep that a secret. I would not understand that. And I would love to know why. I would love to hear their perspective. But it's most likely not going to be far off of the idea that they were going to pray and hope that their dad wakes up. I don't know. I will just have to watch and see. And it will be interesting to know how Sylvia was able to get rid of the smell, how the wife was able to go through this for nearly 3 years. For nearly 3 years with a dead body in the house. How do you breathe, eat, survive? Like, even if the smell did not come out so bad, I'm sure inside that house, anyhow, most times people who live in a house start to get used to the smell around them. So it's all confusing. The body has been taken for an autopsy, so if they can find out what killed him, that would be good. And I guess we'll have to follow the story and see what comes up. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Let me know what you feel. Do you think they murdered him? Do you think this is some case of religious indoctrination? Do you think this is a mental illness? Let me know your thoughts. Don't forget to like, share, comment, and stay subscribed. So should there be any update to this story, you'll be the first to get notified.